It's a great day today here at Wealth Academy Podcast, and we're honored to have you here. We want to welcome you. And remember, wealth is more than just money, and we want to empower you to lead with purpose and wisdom by the end of this particular podcast episode. Now, we have a special guest today. His name is Alessandro Carli. Alessandro, good day. How are you doing, my friend?
Yes. Hi, how are you? And thanks for having me. It's
Honored
a
to
real
have
pleasure to be here.
Honored to have you. We're looking forward to it. So today I'm speaking with Alessandro. We're going to have some conversations. But before we get started, he's a renowned leadership expert, leadership coach, author, and expert in systemic intelligence as well as authoritative leadership. And so we're honored to have him. He helps leaders move beyond control-based leadership into a powerful space of authoritative presence where clarity, connection, and inner awareness guide transformation. In this conversation, you'll discover how systemic thinking reveals the inner forces within the organizations and why leading yourself is the first step to leading others effectively. So get ready for a masterclass in authoritative leadership. So let's dive in. So Alessandro, let's get started. Now, your work centers around authoritative leadership and also systemic intelligence. For those unfamiliar, which we know there are, what would you define it as, and why is it crucial for leaders in today's complex world?
Well, we must understand that the reality that we operate, we live in is not neutral. Okay, so in other words, it has a laws, forces, and dynamics of its own. When we say reality, and we don't really have clear that we are dealing with something that is very much alive and that it answers back to what we do.
Yes.
So when we understand these forces and these dynamics, then we are able to relate and to work with this thing that we call reality. We can call it systems, we can call it universe, we can call it matrix, we can call it whatever we want, but it's not something that is neutral. It
Yeah.
is very much alive and it always answers back to what we do. When you understand that, then your authoritativeness will increase because you know what you're doing, basically.
Mhm.
Whereas if you don't understand that, you will tend to want to control and then to force, to pressure things in order for them to happen. And they will not, well, something will happen, but not, it may not be what you were looking for.
Sure.
And so
And
that's why it's important that we understand these things.
yes, and when we look at the complexities of the world today, the economy, different factors that impact the jobs, the wages, different things such as that. So the authoritative and system intelligence also plays a role in that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I think that you see the fact that the world has been connecting more and more. You see what happened in the last, let's say, 30 years, 20, 30 years,
Mhm.
very aggressively, I would say, are three things. Globalization, well, globalization has been going on for more than that, but it has
Sure.
gone stronger and stronger. But
Absolutely.
globalization, in other words, a worldwide market,
Mhm.
globalization, internet,
Yes.
and logistics.
Technology.
Okay, so all these three things have made it possible for the world to shrink and always more and to become smaller and smaller. And this has been increasing the connections between people. So the
Exactly.
systems are much more sensitive to what is going on as opposed to, let's say, 50 or 60 years ago. I mean, when I was a kid and you
Sure.
talked about China, it was
Sure.
like talking about Mars.
Correct.
You
Yes.
know, today it's just next door.
Absolutely.
And that changes the game, that changes the dynamics. And that's why it's important that we understand how things work. It's not only about understanding your job, understand how to relate better with people, which is, of course, immensely uh, important. But now you also need to understand how the dynamics, in other words, how a living system, natural systems work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And it helps people again understanding that globalization, the world has gotten smaller. Transportation also plays a role. We can get to places faster on the plane
Right.
than we could before. And as you stated, technology has really flipped the switch, if you will, bringing people close together. Now, you often distinguish between authoritative and authoritarian leadership. Can you break down the difference and why it is essential for modern leaders to understand that distinction between authoritative and authoritarian leadership?
Well, the distinction is both in the cause and the effect.
Mhm.
Okay, so if we talk only about the effect, in other words, what you see from an authoritarian leader and an authoritative one is that the authoritarian leader wants things done as he wants. They have to be that way. Why? Because he needs to have control. Okay,
Yes.
so control is the most important thing that we have to consider here. We all need control. Control is imperative. You cannot lead if you do not have control. But
Absolutely.
you cannot, especially today and even more so tomorrow, you cannot do that in today's world. In today's world, you have to understand how, I mean, it's just like a kid. You need to understand how a kid works. Need to understand why he cries, what makes him happy, what makes him lovable, what makes him whatever. You need to learn from him how we should relate to him. And
Yes.
the same thing with systems. And when you do that, you become authoritative because you don't control directly. You control situations by knowing how they respond, by knowing how they behave.
Yes.
Just
And
as
it's
kids.
also impacted by the generations because a Generation Z child, a young adult, think differently than, say, a
Absolutely.
baby boomer. And so that has to be factored in. Leaders have to understand that aspect as well. So
Absolutely.
let's talk a little bit about what inspired your journey into leadership development and how did your background in Italy shape your views on influence and organization dynamics. So let's break it down separately. So what inspired, first of all, your journey into leadership development?
Well, personally, I started with personal development
Mhm.
back in 1987.
Okay.
Okay, so I was young then; I was just 29,
Me too.
and
Ooh, good days.
yeah, and I attended this incredible leadership class. I
Uh-huh.
mean, in Italy, it's not like in the States.
Sure.
In the States, you've been talking about and you've been living with personal growth for a very long time.
Right.
It's perhaps a century, ever since Dale Carnegie
Oh yeah,
and Norman Vincent Peale and
absolutely.
then later on Napoleon
I
Hill.
studied
I mean,
them all.
these
Yes.
giants, okay?
Oh yeah.
But in Italy, personal growth started really in early 90s with NLP.
Yes.
Before NLP, there was just memory techniques, stuff like
Uh-huh.
that,
Sure.
and which was good because it made people feel and understand how much more they can produce with their inner power.
Uh-huh.
So that was good. But anyway, in that class, which was very strong, I decided. I said, "This is what I want to do in my life." I mean,
Ah,
to teach, to do the same. I mean, I was in awe of the trainers. It was a team of trainers, and they were
yeah,
just fantastic. And
yeah.
eventually, I got to work with them in their team. And I've been there for 12 years. That was in Geneva. Okay, it
Okay.
was an international organization, people coming from all over the world. So
Uh-huh.
it gave me an immense experience because I was able to I don't think I've seen a single situation in there that does not exist out there, or the other way around. In other words, anything that is possible out there, I've seen it in that class.
Oh, fantastic.
So I've been able to deal with all sorts of things, with all sorts of situations,
Uh-huh.
and I loved it more and more. Then I started to work on my own and
Sure.
have my business with
Okay.
coaching.
Let's take it one step further. Now, of course, you were born and are from Canada, beautiful
Yeah.
country, Canada, and you moved to the beautiful country of Italy. I mean, how blessed can one be? So let's talk about your background in Italy and how it shaped your views on influence and organizational dynamics.
Well, that as I said, I've been studying a lot,
Lot.
and I've had some references. For me, for example, Stephen Covey, like, has
Right.
been one of the great.
I have those books too.
Oh wow, that's great. Oh
I
boy,
read
I
them
envy
all.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, the book that most impressed me and touched me. Okay, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but most of all, Principle-Centered Leadership.
Yes.
I read that book I don't know how many times, and then later on with Peter Senge with the Fifth Discipline, where
Uh,
I started to move into the realm of systems thinking, systemic
yes.
intelligence,
Mhm.
and I saw that that is where the answers are in that. In other words, when you start to understand what you're dealing with,
Uh-huh.
and so gradually, because like I said, Italians, there isn't that trading mentality as
Exactly.
it is in the States. It
Uh-huh.
still has to develop, it still has to grow. And so it hasn't been easy at first, but then gradually, a little at a time, things started. I got through to people writing a lot on LinkedIn, especially. I
Oh yeah.
write a lot on LinkedIn in Italian, however.
Uh-huh.
For now, I may also start writing in English as well.
Sure.
So, because I would like to bring out outside of Italy what I know, what I've been working
Bring
on, what
it
I've
back.
developed.
Yes. Fantastic. So we of course talked initially about system intelligence being one of your areas of focus. So how does systemic intelligence help leaders uncover the invisible patterns or hidden dynamics that affect team performance and decision making? Because we know it's really aligned with emotional intelligence, correct?
Yes, it's a further step with respect
Emotional.
to emotional intelligence. Now, I want to be clear. First of all, what is a system? First of all, it's a structure.
Yes.
Okay, so it can be artificial or it can be natural. Okay,
Mhm.
artificial, you make it, we design it, we make it as we want, but still, we have to learn the laws. In other words, electronics or mechanics, they follow law.
Yes.
In the same way, you need to understand the laws of nature,
Hmm.
the forces that come into play. So we must understand that as a structure, natural structures, in this case, not artificial ones,
Sure.
they work on 5 different, well, on different levels. I say 5, but there are more, but the main one are 5,
Hmm.
which are the operational. That's the one we work on every day: physical, material, operational. That's what we do
Yes.
every day.
Yes.
Okay,
A
so
normal
there's
part of
not
life.
much, yeah, there's not much to say about that. Even, the leadership at that level is a very direct one. It
Yeah.
tends to be authoritarian,
Uh-huh.
however.
Hmm.
Okay. Then we came up with emotional intelligence.
Hmm.
Emotional intelligence that said, listen, only operating from the first level doesn't work, because today people, as you said before, with the Gen Z,
Right.
they don't take all that. Sorry if I say it, all that crap that we
Exactly.
elderly ones were
Yes.
taking from bosses. They
That's
don't
right.
take that. So they need us. You need to talk to people and relate to people in a different way, where
Build
they
that,
can
build that trust.
understand.
Yes,
Yeah,
build trust. Yes. And
and then
and with leaders, it's all about them also listening because
yes,
generation
absolutely,
Z
yes.
is different
Okay,
than the boomers.
how difficult is that?
Yeah.
Listening.
Yes.
No,
Active listening.
when I started with this other organization, I was also doing communication courses,
Yes.
and the first thing we were teaching was listening. I'm talking about like 35 years ago. Okay,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
listening was the first thing, and that's the module of the course that people remember the most.
Yes.
That's how important listening is, and it's not difficult, but you need a true desire to connect with people. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you will not listen. It's not a question of technique; it's a question
Absolutely.
of will.
Absolutely. And when we look at the different technology that's there, you have to work harder at communication because when people have their personal devices, their cell phone, their tablets, their laptops, that breaks up direct communication if the person is using it while they're communicating with someone.
Yeah, well, it's we are, with these instruments, we are
Yeah,
not really communicating, because
that's correct.
communication has many things. Or
Yes.
first of all, if you write, you don't see the person,
Correct.
you don't touch the person, you know, there are sensorial feedbacks that you don't have with technology. Now,
So,
technology, I don't want to demonize technology. I mean, I love
sure.
technology because if I hated it, I mean, we couldn't even be here talking tonight.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so technology, I admire technology, but we must not fall slaves of and think that with technology we solve all problems. Because
Absolutely.
as a matter of fact, if you don't control technology, technology will control you,
Correct.
and you
Correct.
don't want that. Okay, that's just the opposite of leadership.
Definitely. Absolutely. Wonderful. Wonderful descriptions and examples as well. So let's take a look at your coaching work, Alessandro. What are the most common blind spots you see in emergent leaders who want to lead with authority?
Yes, it's the habit.
Habit.
Habit, yes.
Yes.
Okay, we develop habits, and habits are a blessing because we don't have to invent new things every time. Okay,
Absolutely.
so I would say that 80%, even 90% of habits are okay.
Hmm.
Okay, in our life, habits are okay, but it's the 10% that makes a difference.
Sure.
So it's okay to have habits and to apply them. It makes things easier.
Yes.
But at the same time, we must put effort on the 10% where you create something, not out of nowhere, but out of the feedback that comes from the environment.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that is what you have to work on. You have to be very attentive to what is going on, to what, you know, if you see people that are not happy, that there's something wrong with them, just don't say or think to yourself, "Well, he's here to work.
Sure.
I don't care if he has something to say, he can come up to me."
Sure.
But that's not enough. That's not enough.
Right.
You really have to go towards people. And that's how you become authoritative because they see you as an authority. Okay,
Exactly.
an authority is someone who is there, who has credibility, that you
Yes.
want to trust,
Trust. Have
but you have to
experience.
do the work in that 10%. And then
Yeah.
the rest you can do habits. No problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when we look at a role of inner work, I know that you talk about inner work like self-awareness and emotional regulation. What role does it plays in developing what you call an authoritative presence? When we look at again at self-awareness, which means we want to prove ourselves in emotional regulation, which is emotional intelligence under control. So
Yeah.
how does that play? What role does that play in developing what you call an authoritative presence?
Authoritative is okay, but it starts with self awareness, but it
Yes,
also has to expand to awareness. In other
yes,
words, where you are, what you are doing, okay,
yes,
what you are dealing with, what are you confronted with. That is also part of awareness.
sure,
Now, when you know, the simple fact that you realize that, even though you may not have worked on that yet, but
sure,
the fact that you started to realize that you're not alone. I call this the invisible partner that you're dealing with. In other words, the environment. Because it is invisible. You mean you see the environment, but you don't see the way it behaves. Okay,
exactly,
so and that is what gives you authority when you start to question things that seem obvious, and then you try to go deeper into that, and you question that somehow. If it's a person, you ask questions.
sure,
Otherwise, you study, you take a book, and you want to know more about what is going on,
mhm,
and that makes authoritative. There are, you know, three pillars to authoritativeness.
okay,
One is control, and I mean true control, not, you know, authoritarian
authoritative
control, but
control,
a control which is based on the knowledge and awareness of the environment, of the system that you're operating in.
mhm,
The impact. What impact do you make? Because just having control is not enough.
mhm,
You need to have, you know this better than me, influence, right? So
influence,
influence and impact are, I mean, that go with control. If control alone will not do the work for you. And the third thing is direction. Where are you going?
yeah,
Why?
mhm,
With what purpose? Uh, with whom? All
sure,
these things are what give a person authoritativeness, which requires knowing how to relate yourself with the outside world.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. That is just an awesome perspective. And those people are listening. What I talked about earlier about the master class, you're going through it right now. In fact, I want to share with people how I connected with you. We were going through the Master X Leadership Summit with the Mega Global Hub, and
Yes.
we had, I don't know, so many speakers that day. But when Alessandro Carli came on, I was taking a lot of notes. I was listening
Yeah.
intently, and I was
Yeah.
thinking to myself, the wheels were turning over, and my mind told me, you've got to interview him. So this is the
Well,
intersection.
thank
Yes,
you for that.
this is the intersection, having a 360-degree experience from the time we were in the leadership summit on the same platforms,
Right.
delivering leadership expertise till now. And
Yeah.
I want to say, Alessandro, that this is not the last time you're going to be on Wealth Academy podcast. You're coming back again.
Well, it'll be a pleasure, Paul, anytime.
Yes. So let's talk about your book just a bit. You're an author and thought leader. What core messages do you hope leaders and readers take away from your body of work? In fact, I'm going to put one of your books here, and we can talk about the other one as well.
Yes, unfortunately, these books are just, I wrote, published with a publisher.
Sure.
This one in particular is Franco Angeli. You can see it right above the image.
Sure.
And Franco Angeli is one of the most renowned publisher for work literature, okay?
Okay.
For what concerns work. And I had written a first version of this book in 1996.
Uh-huh.
And nobody wanted to publish it. It was a time when in Italy we were talking about quality systems, you know.
Uh-huh.
And then in 2002, I didn't want to throw it away. I didn't throw it away. I
Sure.
just, you know, we assembled it, and I called it the 5 Principles of Corporate Success. And
Yes.
I don't know if it was the title. I don't know what it was, but when I sent the script to the publisher, after 2 days, the boss himself, he called me on the phone and said, "We're going to publish this in 2 months," which is a
Wow.
very short period of time. Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and thanks. Well, you know, back then we're talking about more than almost 25 years ago.
Sure.
Okay, so and it was in Italy. Nobody yet was talking about mission, about vision, about leadership in a certain way already in a
Sure.
systemic context,
Uh-huh.
and it was kind of new at the time. And so it went quite well.
Oh, fantastic. And the thing about it, when you say when it was written, and I did some research on the lifespan of a book, and the lifespan of a book is 72 years. So it's a young book.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, 72 years, kind of like the lifespan of a person.
Yeah.
So even let's say, for example, we depart and make that transition one day, our book will still be here carrying on.
That's good to know. Yeah, you leave
Yeah,
something. That's important. You leave something.
leaving a legacy.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So you have another book, Your Life and Your Purse. Let's share a little bit about that as well.
yeah. I wrote that book, I think 5 or 6 years after, always with the same publisher.
Okay.
And you know, it's taken from that what a burglar says, that you know points
Sure.
a gun at you and tells you your purse or your life. Okay.
Yes.
And I
Uh-huh.
took it from that, and I said, your purse and your life. In other words,
Yeah.
you do not have to choose
Sure.
between the purse, which
Hmm.
is the material possession or the wealth, etc., and your personal life. They
Yeah.
must go together.
Hmm.
That's where it comes from. Now, the book is about self-esteem.
Oh,
Because
wonderful.
only when, yes, it's about self-esteem, not in a psychological way.
Sure. Hmm. Yes, and again, when we look at the fact that book has a lifespan of 72 years, you have two just wonderful books there. You have the 5 Principles of Corporate Success and Your Life and Your Purse. And again, as you stated, a burglar may say your purse or your life. and you say a purse and life, giving people two different options. It doesn't have to be one or the other, which I think is really great and something to really hold your hat on. So, Alessandro, do you have additional comments that you'd like to make? Okay, so what we have here, again, we want to thank Alessandro Carli for being just an amazing, amazing leadership expert. He has provided us with some tremendous insight today. And as I stated before, I'm going to bring him back on for another opportunity to share even more. Now, granted, Alessandro, he has really done a lot of amazing works, and he has decades of expertise, and I would love to talk to him about that. I know one thing is that he works with small businesses, leaders in Italy and others, but I truly believe that a lot of work that he has provided continues to make a difference for not only small businesses, but for universities, schools and universities, and entrepreneurs, of course. And it's something that we truly, truly look forward to learning even more about him. And this has been really a tremendous, tremendous session. And I really appreciate the fact that he has done great work. And what I was talking about, Alessandro, is the fact that you've done tremendous work. And I'm going to bring you back on another episode as well, because the expanse of knowledge and wisdom that you have and expertise is just really something that you don't find every day. So if you would, and thank you so much, is finally, what advice would you give to leaders around the world who are struggling to lead through this uncertain times and shifting workplace norms and global complexities?
Well, the thing is that we leaders have to learn today how to confront themselves and deal with their environment. That is the most important thing. It's not
Absolutely.
just about business. Your business is not something that works on its own. It's not a thing that is isolated from the rest,
Exactly.
even though we will want that because it's easier, because we have more control. So
Sure.
this is what, for example, in my work as a trainer and a coach, is to help people understand how to do that, because
Yes.
it's not complicated. I mean, reality is not complicated at all. It has few laws that you have to abide by, but once you know them, once you understand them, you don't have that problem anymore. But
Exactly.
it's going really outside the box. It's
Mhm.
really about thinking outside the box,
Yes.
and we must have some courage, because it's never easy
Yes.
to to risk going outside the box. But
Absolutely.
we have no choice, because everybody has to do that. It's not
Everybody.
just that person.
Sure.
Everybody has to do that. And
Absolutely.
when they understand how things are set up, how
Yeah.
natural systems work, it
Uh-huh.
all becomes much more clear.
Yes, absolutely. And it increases the productivity. You will have happier employees and leaders and employees, because, again, we are responsible for our own happiness. But when it comes to work, we want to enjoy our work as well.
Absolutely. Yes. I
Yes,
mean, work is not a curse.
absolutely. It's a
It's
benefit.
it's something that you're passionate about, and that's the thing, especially leaders and business owners, they have that. I mean,
Yes,
most of them have that. I've never seen a business owner not having passion for his work, because otherwise he would be doing something else.
he'll be
Okay.
going out of business very
An
fast.
employee may have that problem, certainly not a business owner. But how
Sure.
can the difficult thing is to keep that passion alive.
Yes,
Being able to ignite it and then keeping it alive.
definitely.
That's the thing that we have to do. And you do that when you feel in control.
Definitely.
That's always the most important thing. You see how many times did I say control tonight?
Well, it's important.
Quite
And
a
it's
bit,
important
because
because,
it's all there. It's all
yes,
about.
yes, controlling the emotions, controlling decisions, because better decisions we make, the better results we get. And when it comes to leadership, again, having that influence on people, not the type of influence that creates a bad situation, but one where people really want to do something. Even if they didn't want to do it, they do it because they know it's going to make a difference.
Right.
Yes.
Precisely. And having that awareness, I know that what I do, how do you know that what you do is going to produce something? You don't.
Absolutely. You don't.
But if you understand the dynamics, you know,
You know.
because it's not that
Something,
something that comes from you.
something greater than yourself.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. And that is what makes us great. Great.
Absolutely.
In that.
Well, Alessandro, it has been just amazing having you here. Before we go, I would love for you to provide your best source where people can get in touch with you, probably right there on our LinkedIn. It's a really great
Yes.
place. If you could provide your LinkedIn information.
Yes. It is, well, it's my website, which is alessandrocarli.it/en for
Okay.
English, okay, because it's
Yes.
got both languages.
Uh-huh.
And if they want,
Sure.
okay, they can contact me. There's I call it an authorimeter, which is a very short assessment test, which I
Sure.
will do for free. It's not, I
Oh,
charge
wonderful.
usually for that. That
Uh-huh.
is free. If they give me, and they tell me that they've been listening to your podcast, I will
Okay.
be glad to have them do the test, and then and online with the
Sure.
person for
Okay.
free. I will
Okay.
tell them exactly what came out, so
And
they
that's
have
all
that
on your website.
flexibility. Right. So
Yeah.
they'll know more about the authoritativeness. How
Okay.
am I really? You'll
Yeah.
find out.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And it's an honor to interview you. And again, we're going to look at the future, maybe in July, maybe August, and have you back on. And we'll cover some different topics because you just have that much wisdom and that knowledge and that expertise. So thank you very much for being our honored guest today. And what I want to say to people who are listening here live and on the archive, thank you so much for taking the time out to invest in yourself today, because today is actually an investment
Yes.
through compliments of Alessandro Carli. And so we thank you so much. And go out there to Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, go out there to Amazon Music and wherever you get your podcast and listen to this particular episode, episode 292 with Alessandro Carli, and he'll be talking about authoritative leadership in addition to with systemic intelligence. And so thank you so much. Go out there, rate and review this episode. Tell your friends, your families, and your colleagues. But we
Yeah.
thank you so much. My time is up, and I thank you for yours. And Alessandro, have a great day and weekend, and we'll get back together for the second round that I'm going to have with you. Have a great day, my
I
brother.
love that. I love that, Paul. And thank you again for having me in your program, in your podcast.
Okay.
It was really fun. It was really good.
You're very welcome. And thank you so much, and have a great day.